Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's special edition of Behind the Diplomatic Curtain, where we dig deep into the international diplomacy, transparency, and the murky waters where power, influence, and integrity meet. Today, we're addressing a controversy that has rocked the US diplomacy in the Balkans and raised serious questions about the integrity of key American envoys. The focus tonight is on the investigative findings of the Frontliner magazine, which shed light on the actions of Gabriel Escobar, the former US envoy to Kosovo-Serbia dialogue. Some might say that democracy thrives on transparency and accountability, but what happens when those very principles are selectively applied or completely ignored? Tonight, we're peeling back the layers to reveal how some diplomats love democracy, but only when it is convenient for them. In March 2024, the Frontliner magazine published a detailed investigation revealing alleged financial ties between Gabriel Escobar's family and Serbian government interests. Escobar, a critical figure in the Kosovo-Serbia dialogue, was already operating in a volatile region. But these findings uncovered connections that many believe compromised his neutrality, especially links between his wife and the Serbian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, as well as to the daughter of the Butcher of the Balkan, Slobodan Milosevic. Now, in the region still scarred by ethnic tensions and the brutal wars of the 90s, these revelations raised alarm. Kosovo declared its independence in 2008, but the recognition by Serbia remains elusive. In this fragile diplomatic setting, even the slightest hint of bias could destabilize peace efforts. Escobar's involvement was further called into question when reports surfaced about his family ties to McGuinness Lethbridge LLP, a Texas law firm advising the government of Republika Srpska, a Serbian-backed entity. An $80,000 a month contract placed Escobar's diplomatic credibility on a razor's edge. The question at the heart of all is simple. Can the US maintain its role as an impartial supporter of Kosovo's sovereignty with an envoy whose personal ties suggests a different story? The investigation sparked further questions about how the US conducts diplomacy in the Balkans. I myself was invited by the US Strategic Communication Department in Brussels to a briefing with Assistant Secretary James O'Brien and Escobar. He was dismissed or pulled back at the last minute, where I directly asked about these allegations. The response? Silence. My questions were blatantly ignored. So, what scared Escobar? What scared the US State Department? Why have they been dodging these questions since November 2023? Could it be that the truth was just too uncomfortable to confront? We don't know to this day. While we wait for the answers, one thing remains clear. The public deserves transparency, and diplomats must act with the highest standards of ethics, especially in regions with such a tumultuous history as the Balkans. Not instead trying to undermine democracy and undermine independent journalism by using American tax dollars to pay smear campaigns on journalists like myself. Among the others, I have been called a self-identified journalist. How beautiful is that? Well, shortly after our reporting, a source from the United States told Frontliner magazine that Gabriel Escobar had been dismissed from his role. This marked a turning point, showing that the media scrutiny still has the power to hold powerful figures accountable. But what followed was just as revealing: the smear campaign. I was invited as a panelist on Euronews Albania's show where we discussed the pressures journalists face when uncovering uncomfortable truths. Shortly after that appearance, a barrage of attacks from pro-US embassy in Kosovo outlets like NGO's Bunker and Gazeta Express attempted to discredit me and my work. These outlets labeled our investigation as disinformation without providing any factual rebuttals. They relied on personal attacks, all while never once extending an invitation for a transparent and face-to-face public debate. This campaign was nothing short of an attempt to silence investigative journalism, an all too familiar tactique employed by authoritarian regimes. Here in Kosovo, the US Embassy seemed to be playing from that very same playbook we often saw Vladimir Putin playing. The silence from the US State Department in response to our reporting is more than just an oversight. It's a deliberate evasion of accountability. And when the media outlets funded by the US government echo this silence, we have to ask, has democracy been undermined by those who claim to defend it? As we conclude tonight's discussion, I'd like to leave you with this. Democracy thrives on transparency, and journalism is its watchdog. What we have seen in the Escobar's case is a stark reminder of the challenges journalists face when holding the powerful accountable. The smear campaigns, the dodged questions, the silence, all of these tactics are designed to protect the status quo, not the truth. We will continue to ask the questions and push for the transparency that public deserves. This story is far from over, and I invite you to stay with us as we uncover more in the episodes to come. Please consider subscribing to Gunpowder Chronicles so we can keep pulling back the curtain on those who claim to champion democracy, but when the cameras are off, are anything but democratic. And remember, these denials coming from the US State Department's mouthpieces are unacceptable. They have failed to answer directly, and instead of addressing our investigative findings, they have chosen evasion, they have chosen smear campaign on me personally, they have chosen to undermine independent journalism, and they have chosen to undermine democracy. We will be back soon with more on this evolving story.